blind. And of course, once you're blind or you have, you're an amputee, now all of a sudden you become, to one degree or another, a ward of the state. So you're living off of taxpayers' largesse.
Right.
So, but we don't do that to them. In other words, if a patient comes to me, if I'm a doctor, and says, "Doctor, I'm very insistent. I just cannot. I just can't live with my legs. I just can't do it." I mean, it's a Nick. I'm not making fun here. It's a real disorder. There are people out there who are suffering tremendous emotional stress, anxiety, angst, because they cannot, psychologically, they cannot live with a particular body part. Pardon my coughing. And but there is no doctor in the world that you're going to go to who's going to say, "Well, we're going to put you on a special medication so that you're not so anxious about this anymore. We'll put you through a process of treatment to make sure you're really serious about we'll run some tests to make sure you're very serious, really, truly serious about having your legs amputated. And if, in fact, that is the way you want to do it, then, it's a human right. You have the human right to have your legs amputated, so we'll do that for you." Nobody will do it. And
no.
So why, when it comes to sex, gender, why do we not have the same standards? Because, and I'll tell you why, at the risk of causing problems now. Here we go. Because when it comes to gender, it's all political and not medical. And the medical establishment has bought holus bolus into the political / ideological arguments around it. Okay? Because nobody, the question of whether you're heterosexual or homosexual, okay, you have homosexual practices or tendencies, or whatever your inclination is, that has become a political issue as opposed to a medical issue, and an ideological as opposed to medical. And as a consequence of that, we treat it completely differently. We allow the politics of it and the ideology of it to trump the medicine side of it. Now, before people start writing in and arguing that we have to be canceled because, we're saying, well, being gay is a medical problem. It's I don't know. And I don't care. What I do know is it's not a political problem, and it's not an ideological problem, any more than any of those other circumstances are. And if we're going to say we have to treat it as a political problem, as a human rights issue, then, here comes that slippery slope argument again. Surely we have to treat all of the other cases where people are just not able to live with their body the way it is, that we should be treating those people with the same kind of, for want of a better term, respect for their human rights as we do somebody who we're talking about gender transition. And now, just let me say one more thing, and then I'll shut up because I'm speaking too much here, I think. But just in fairness, let's circle back for a second and understand that we're not, in this case in BC, we're not even talking about gender reassignment surgery for an adult, as I've just been harping on for the last few minutes. We're talking about a child being subjected to chemical gender reassignment, essentially hormone therapy. And either way you cut that, Nick, I can't help but make the observation that, in my opinion, that's child abuse. I just don't think you can do that.
Words right out of my mouth. You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, how can you come to any other conclusion? children have always struggled with their identity when they go through their teenage years, post-puberty up to 19, 20, 21, 20, sometimes as late as 24, before they sort out where they fit in the world, who they are, and what their identity is. And by that I mean, who is this person staring back at me from the mirror? And that is as normal a process as there is on the planet. We all go through it. We all ask ourselves questions about, what am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? And in the past, you were told, well, this is life. Everybody goes through this. Don't worry about it. It's not going to take a lot of, you've got a lot of years ahead of you yet to sort this all out. So don't, if you need to talk to somebody, fine. Let's help, unjangle the thoughts in your head. And the vast majority of us get through it just fine. And for those who don't, there are psychologists and psychiatrists and so on, for lack of, and no disrespect intended, but head doctors out there to help people deal with this. But as you point out, today, it's so politically involved that even if somebody is just looking for help sorting their thoughts out, oh, well, we can get you on this therapy and make you into what you feel like you are today. Well, what happens if in a month from now, left alone, their disposition is 180 degrees different? You take that growing process away from them by artificially stimulating something that is nothing more than maybe it's a burst of hormones, maybe it's just part of growing up. Whatever it is, you stifle that or in favor of one particular mood or attitude at the time, and that, I think, is tremendously dangerous.
You just caught me swallowing, Nick.
Did I? Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. I was just reading some of the stuff in the chat room while I was listening to you. Yeah, it's, I guess it's a sign of the times, and I don't know what you can do about it, Nick, it's, except for to be prepared to speak out. But if you're going to speak out, you better be prepared to pay the price, because we live in a society now where people, more and more exercising free speech, exercising your right to dissent from what has become a status quo. And by the way, I use that term advisedly because I don't know on this subject, I don't know how status quo this kind of thing is. In other words, I don't really know for certain that the public really, really supports the idea of gender reassignment surgery for children or hormone therapy for children. I suspect that people in our country and the general population are far more uncomfortable with that than perhaps we give them credit for. But be that as it may, I mean, we don't control the levers of power, Nick, and if you speak this way publicly too loudly, you're going to have the entire woke community coming down on you like a ton of bricks.
Well, you know what? One of the things I was going to mention is, when was the last time you saw a survey of Canadians on this topic, whether they supported it or not?
Well, I don't think I've seen a survey, to be honest with you.
That's my point. There's no way to know if you don't do a survey. And granted, surveys have their flaws too, and they can be manipulated. But if you did a proper survey using, the right methods, to make sure that you're getting as honest a response as possible, you would be surprised. I don't think the people who support this kind of nonsense would be floored at how many people disagree with them and think that children should be left alone to grow up in the house where their parents live, unmolested by the state. That's the best thing the state can do for kids, is just stay out of their lives for as long as possible. So I don't believe in lowering the voting age.
Well, I have to tell you, Nick, I think that you're going to have a lot of difficulty even finding a credible polling company to conduct that kind of research. I think that it's reached the level of coerced political correctness in our society has reached that stage where you can't even, it's not only can you not get the answer, you can't ask the question without precipitating some controversy. Anyway, but we're not afraid of controversy here on the Nick and Joe Show, are we, Nick?
No, we're not. No, we're not.
No, we're not. And since we're not afraid of controversy, we are also not afraid of going for breaks and catching our breath. So if you're listening to the live show, stay with us for one more half-hour segment. The home stretch is just around the corner. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you for joining in, and be sure to tune in again to the Nick and Joe Show, coming to you from ThinkRadio.ca.